What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Adam back at you again. I think this is 3 days in a row. Hashtag rebound, day 96. Day 96 of trying to put a life back together. I'm actually starting to approach the number of days that I was homeless as I sit here in Texas trying to get things together. So I think I said in the video yesterday, I did get my birth certificate, so I'm official. I'm an official human being once again, with a certificate to prove it, and we're just gonna go from there. Next steps, just one day at a time. One day at a time. Last night I posted a video. It was late. I noticed that when I post these videos late, they're not getting any views to begin with, but when I post them late, they're definitely not getting any views. And but the thing started uploading at 7:30 p.m. last night, and it got to like 98% at one point, and then all of a sudden it dropped back down to 50, and then it started climbing back up again. It dropped back down again. YouTube, I don't understand. This has happened a lot with YouTube over the last several months. Doesn't matter what internet connection I'm using. It could have been the library. It could have been the T-Mobile, Wi-Fi wireless network from the phone. It could be the Wi-Fi here where I'm staying right now. It does not matter. It's on YouTube. It's definitely a problem with YouTube. So I started uploading at 7:30 p.m. By 11 o'clock last night, it was 50%. I think YouTube might throttle your video speed for your uploads if they hate you and you say the wrong things. I don't know. There were days at the Jamestown Library where sometimes uploading those daily videos would start at 9 a.m. and last until 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Other days, video of the same length or longer would upload in 10 minutes. So I don't know what's going on, but I got it up there. It works. We're good to go. We're on the next day. I'm doing another video. Here we are. I think YouTube has made it obvious that they might want to just kick me off the platform because I say the same things, but right now they're I think they're fine with giving me the shadow ban and restricting my growth and making sure nobody sees the impressions and all the things that matter. Whatever. It is what it is. I got a message from YouTube that one of my homeless videos from 3-4 months ago got restricted, demonetized, and it's still up and you can watch it, but it has some sort of age restriction. And the message that I got said it was because I was discussing suicide, and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I was never discussing. When the hell was I discussing suicide? And then I get a ton of automated emails along with this. Granted, it's 4 months after I posted the video or longer. And it's all these automated YouTube emails asking me if I need help to go seek help, giving me the suicide prevention hotlines and all these other things. And I'm like, what the hell did I say in this video? And so they gave me the timestamp, and I watched the video. I go right to the spot where they tell me to go, and in the video, I'm going to get another warning for what I'm about to tell you, but in the video that I got this restriction about, I was talking about how Vince Foster committed suicide in Washington, D.C. by shooting himself twice in the back of his head because the Clinton family didn't want him around anymore. And I'm like, okay, that's great. That's great. So now that I'm sharing the story with you, I'm probably going to get another restriction, followed by another email box full of suicide hotlines and information and spammy pre-written messages telling me that my life is worth it and don't give up and all these things. Maybe 3 or 4 months from now, when it's too fucking late, if someone was actually talking about doing that to themselves and, not receiving that from the Clinton family who put a hit out on them. So I filed an appeal. I filed an appeal with the YouTube court system, and they must use the same judges that the federal government uses when defendants file appeals based on their federal sentences, because my appeal was denied less than 5 minutes after I filed it. So there you go. And after my appeal got denied, they sent me another barrage of emails and pre-written, pre-formatted messages, and I'm just going to read one to you. Hi, Adam Bees. We reviewed Homeless Day 97. When is it no longer a coincidence? Part 2. And we confirmed that it's not appropriate for younger audiences under our community guidelines. Your video will remain age restricted. What we found: your content was restricted because of our self-harm policy. Content that discusses or depicts suicide or self-harm in a graphic, non-promotional, and non-instructional manner may be age-restricted if it's not appropriate for all audiences. You can see an example around the 38-minute mark and 26 seconds, although there could be other instances. How this impacts you. This video won't be visible to viewers under the age of 18 who are not signed in, otherwise your channel isn't affected. Learn about our resolution options. They gave me another link to file another appeal. And then I get more emails from them saying, "Hi there. We're reaching out because members of the YouTube community, including fellow creators, viewers, or staff, have expressed concern for your safety and well-being after coming across content you posted with topics related to suicide or self-harm." Wait a fucking minute. It's not self-harm when the Clinton family does it to you. If I'm worried about anything, I'm worried about the Clinton family putting out a hit on me. Not worried about, oh, my life sucks and I'm going to take my own life. Get out of here. If you or someone you know is experiencing suicidal thinking or self-harming, know that there is help and you are not alone. 4 months after you posted a video about it, of course. It's not uncommon to turn to suicidal thinking and self-harm as ways to cope with painful emotions. That's exactly what the Clintons would have said about Vince Foster. Talking to someone can help you process these emotions, as well as get support through a difficult time. We encourage you to use the resources listed in our help center if you need support. These include organizations specific to your location. You can also visit findahelpline.com to look for mental health care providers. We care about you. You are not alone, and help is available. Please take care. Sincerely, the YouTube team. Thank you so much, YouTube. Thank you so much for caring about me. You really made me feel special, and yes, maybe I was about to jump off the bridge. Maybe I was about to go over the edge and end it all. But thanks to that nicely worded, pre-formatted email that you sent me 4 months after the fact, I am now realizing that I'm a valuable human being who has something to contribute to this society, and I should not be having those kinds of thoughts. Thank you, YouTube. You saved my life. But this, the rejection of my appeal, this is the kind of stuff that you can expect when we replace judges in the courtroom with AI judges and jurors with AI jurors. You're all going to be serving a life sentence in prison over an unpaid parking ticket after the wind blew it away when the AI meter maid robot failed to slip it under your windshield wiper blade. So, but anyway, moving on. I thought it was kind of funny and ironic that I just got these emails and went through all of this when I had already queued up the subject for this video and talking about some of the anxiety issues that I'm dealing with. And, YouTube decided to send me all these helpful tips of where I can seek help when I'm feeling that way, even though I'm like I said, I'm more worried about the Clintons suiciding me than I have ever been worried about harming myself right now. So since this video is already going to get blacklisted because I talked about this, fuck it at this point. We're just going to move on. Keep on keeping on. I always talk about this book, Jesus Calling by Sarah Young, the daily devotional that is written as if it's Jesus talking to you for a few minutes out of your day every day. It references Bible verses that these devotionals are based on, but I'm just reading you the meat and, you know, the vegetables, the starch, you know, that's off to the side. You can go get your fill. If you want to look this up, you can buy the book, do whatever you got to do. But I thought this went right along with what I want to talk about today, and it was Jesus Calling for December 21st, which is today. I read it after midnight last night, and I had this all these notes queued up for today's video, and it just went right along with what I'm going to talk about today. It says, "My plan for your life is unfolding before you. Sometimes the road you are traveling seems blocked, or it opens up so painfully slow that you must hold yourself back. Then, when the time is right, the way before you suddenly clears through no effort of your own." I'm going to pause right there because that's exactly how things went during the 115 days or whatever it was that I was homeless in Jamestown, New York. Every single day, I just felt like things were going nowhere. And every time there was a light at the end of the tunnel, it was just a freight train coming at me, getting ready to hit me head on. And there was no light at the end of this tunnel, no matter what. And then all of a sudden, a guy is out in the park walking his dog, and the dog runs up to me, and I start petting the dog. I start talking to the guy. Boom, 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 boom. 2 days later, I have freelance clients and the means to drive to Houston, Texas, and the probation officer had just called me the day before to say it was okay to move. All of that came out of nowhere. When the time was right, the way before me suddenly cleared. And it was just, it says here, "What you have longed for and worked for, I present to you freely as a pure gift. You feel awed by the ease with which I operate in the world, and you glimpse my power and glory." There it is, right there. It all just happened in the blink of an eye. I was at the right place at the right time, but I really didn't do anything to make those things happen. They just did. Or I took maybe a few baby steps in a certain direction, and Jesus came to meet me. I didn't, you know, I was looking at the top of Mount Everest, but I'm in Kathmandu, and I got a long walk ahead of me just to get to base camp. But Jesus came and picked me up in a helicopter and took me there. You know what I mean? I didn't have to walk. So don't fear your weakness, for it is the stage on which my power and glory perform most brilliantly. As you persevere along the path I have prepared for you, depending on my strength to sustain you, expect to see miracles, and you will. Miracles are not always visible to the naked eye, but those who live by faith can see them clearly. Living by faith rather than sight enables you to see my glory. And I've been living by faith because I got no other choice since the day I got out of the joint. And that's just how life has been. But I've seen little signs and wonders here and there during the time I spent in Jamestown, enough to let me know that God's there and he's working on this. And, you know, it's just like that entry said, sometimes the timing is just not right. And I'm just going to off the cuff just kind of remember some of the absurdity of how ridiculous all the timing and everything was. I'm just going to go off the top of my head. Like I said, one day I'm walking to the park bench to shoot this video. There was this guy who would show up almost at the same time as me every morning to walk his dog. We'd look at each other and wave. Once I think I ran into him on the walking path, and we had like a minute-long conversation, you know, about the nice weather or whatever. Oh, you're out shooting some video. That's cool. It really didn't, there was nothing to it. I made jokes about it. that the FBI is probably sending this guy down to spy on me. I told him about that. He thought it was hilarious. But anyway, one morning I'm walking to the park bench. His dog comes running across this yard and just kind of like jumps up at me. I'm petting the dog, and he comes over to apologize about the dog. I'm like, no, man, you're good. I like this dog. He's a friendly dog. I like dogs, don't worry about it. He's cool. And we started talking. Everything just kind of went from there. He kind of poked and prodded a little bit, and I told him a little bit about my story. And he asked me what I do for a living, or what I did for a living, and I told him, and he said, and I even said I'm starting my own business right now, because I had just, within a few weeks before that, had put it out there on these YouTube videos that was the direction I'm going to have to go. And I'm fine with it, and I'm happy about that, if that's what I'm going to do with the rest of my days, then so be it. Beats working for these software companies. But anyway, he just looks at me and he goes, I need someone who can do exactly what you do. We need to meet. Come over to my restaurant tomorrow and we'll talk. And then tomorrow comes and he hires me to do some work for him. Then I get a phone call from probation saying, you can come to Texas. How am I going to get there? The next day I have a check in my hand. Now I know how I'm going to get there. I had to find a van to rent to drive to Texas, and I found Enterprise Rental Car was in Jamestown, and I got a quote from them. It was like $1,300 to rent a van. I'm like, hell no, that's too expensive. I'll find another way. But my brain, just like the birth certificate thing, I did not accept being told I have to wait 8 months to get a birth certificate in the mail. I kept poking and prodding until I found a way to make it happen. Well, I did the same thing with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I just decided, what if I change the pickup location? And I started typing in different pickup locations in around Buffalo, New York. There's only one in Jamestown, so I went over in Buffalo. All of a sudden, the price drops down to about $500 for the trip. So I randomly picked one in Hamburg, New York, just down the street from the Buffalo Bills Stadium, about a quarter mile to a mile, half mile away from the stadium, something like that. And so the guy who I'm doing the work for, who I met in the park, he said that he would drive me up there. Turns out, the day I booked to travel, I actually booked a Tuesday, but he asked me if I could bump it back to Monday, and I said, that's fine. He said he had to take his mother to the eye doctor, and it was in that area. Well, turns out, first of all, when he took me to the rental place to pick up the vehicle, it was an hour and a half drive to get there. So this wasn't like just a quick drive down the street to take me there. But he had to take his mother to the eye doctor anyway. Well, when we get to the Enterprise Rental Car place and he walks in the building, everybody who works there was like, hey, what's up? Haven't seen you in a while. I'm like, dude, do you really know everybody in Western New York? Everybody. We're an hour and a half away from Jamestown, give or take, at least an hour away. And everybody in this place knew the guy. Oh, hey, how's it been? Blah, blah, blah. They all knew each other. One of the guys, we were all talking. Somebody was like, oh, yeah, he's moving to Houston. And this other guy turns around and says, oh, you should check out the Woodlands when you go down there. It's a really cool area. And I'm like, that's where I'm going to be living. So, yeah, like, wow, it was just weird. It was just that those coincidences were weird. Turns out that the guy who took me up there to the rental car facility had to take his mom to the eye doctor. The eye doctor was on the same road as the rental car place. He said it was less than a quarter mile away from where I picked up the rental car. And I had already picked the location to pick up the rental car like a week ago. So he had nothing to do with that. His mom, the appointment, the eye doctor, there was no like, hey, can you pick a place that's close to where I need to go? I just did, naturally. Then I told you about how I pulled out of the parking lot for the rental car place, and, I saw the car, the ex-girlfriend's car twice as soon as I was pulling out to start my journey, I saw that car twice. Once as I'm pulling out of the parking lot, once a quarter mile down the road. That's just like this weird thing God's been doing to communicate with me about some things. And I talked about that in another video. I'm not going to dwell on it now. And then that day was my son's birthday. That was my son's birthday the day I started to drive down to Texas. And the fact that I had to rearrange the trip to be there for his birthday on his birthday kind of was just magical. And then so I got to see my son for the first time since I was arrested on his birthday. And the trip to Texas was, problem-free. About as problem-free as a drive can possibly be, especially going almost all the way, halfway across the country. It was 2,500 miles or so. I don't know, something like that. It was a long drive. And I was able to find a place to camp the second night of my trip. And like I told you guys, when I pulled into the campsite, there was a big, out of all the campsites in this whole camping area, I pull into the one campsite and then I get out of the vehicle and there's a giant pile of firewood that would be more firewood than I would have burned if I was staying there for a weekend. And it was all just sitting there for me in a pile, waiting for me to set it on fire. 2 trees right there, hammock, bang, bang, boom, I'm done. Camp was set up in about a minute and a half, fire going, sitting in the camp chair, chilling for the first time in over 2 years, sitting out in the woods, sleeping under the stars, all that. And so it was just one thing after the next, where it was just supernatural, things falling into place, coincidences that weren't coincidences, and just everything. The floodgates were just open and it all came pouring out all at once at the right time. But leading up to that, it felt like nothing was happening. So there is something to be said about living by faith and just realizing that, yeah, it sucks today, but God can change that, everything in the blink of an eye. Literally, a dog can come running across the park and, sniff you in the balls, stick his head right in there, and try to get you to pet him. And all of a sudden, your whole life is completely changed because of that moment. You don't know how it's going to happen and when. But he gives you what you need when you need it, and that doesn't mean you're going to be free from hardships. That's for sure. But I've just seen this happen. I've seen this play out too many times in my life to not believe it. But it doesn't mean I still get irritated, and it does suck. And so right now, I'm kind of, like I said, I'm approaching the same amount of time that I was homeless, and I'm still, I'm a house, I went from homeless to house guest, right? But I'm still not where I need to be. Right now, turns out I have 9 days off from the bakery job, and the 2 days where I had to work leading up to that, I was really motivated to get busy and try to knock some things out. But when the first day of my 9 days off arrived, I slept until 10 a.m. And by 1 in the afternoon, I still didn't have any motivation to do anything. I was feeling uncomfortable in my office chair here. I was unmotivated. I was so unmotivated to the point I started watching YouTube videos about motivation, trying to motivate myself. So I started listening to this woman. Her name is Tati Garcia, who describes herself as a high-functioning anxiety coach and a licensed therapist. She shares her tips for coping with and decreasing anxiety, stress, overwhelm, while helping you create more balance, clarity, and calm in your life. Her channel, Calmly Coping, is a self-improvement channel for high achievers who struggle with anxiety, burnout, and overwhelm. And I'm going to put her information, the link to the video that I watched, down here below. It was a very quick video. It was about 20 minutes, but it took me a long time to get through it because I felt like, I think I'm going to take some notes and talk about this because everything she talked about in the video was like a direct hit in terms of what I'm feeling, what I'm going through, some of the things I'm doing to cope with it. And it just felt like a good thing to talk to you guys about in a video because there could be some good information for you. But I would definitely suggest going to check out her video. Check out the link below. I'm going to, because I'm going to talk about it, may as well tell you where to go see it for yourself. And I'm probably going to watch some more videos of hers. I did talk about her editing style where she's one of these YouTubers that when she's talking, the video blinks and her face moves, and you can tell that she might speak a paragraph worth of text verbally, but there's 8 or 9 cuts in the video. Almost every sentence, at the end of the sentence, there's a cut. And so it's kind of like, how bad did you butcher what you were trying to say that you have to put like 10 or 15 cuts in your video for every paragraph. And so I'm not doing that. I don't got time to do that. But I know what it's like because I have had the time to do stuff like that. And in the past, I was doing a little bit of podcasting and stuff. And I would sit there and meticulously edit down to like every time we would say, think about something for a second, cough, mispronounce a word and correct ourselves. I would just cut all that stuff out and make me and my friend sound like the smartest guys that ever lived. But it took a long time, but it was audio only, so you can hide that and you can make it seem like it just flows. But when you're doing it with video, you can make the audio nice and smooth, but the video is cut. You cannot hide that. It's almost impossible to keep your face in the exact same position that it was when you made the mistake and corrected yourself, so your face is bouncing around and shifting and just real choppy and cutting. And so I'm just not doing that. I don't got time for it. But like I said, check her out, link below. First thing she talks about are the reasons why you might feel a lack of motivation on any particular day or for a period of time. And the first one is burnout. And I said, when she said that, I'm like, yeah, that matches up with me when she started talking about it. I've been trying so hard to do so much, and sometimes you just have no energy. You go through phases of feeling like this. I felt like this here and there in Jamestown, and even in Jamestown, I would take a day here and there to do almost nothing useful, or just the bare minimum, and just screw around when I was at the library, or go for a walk, or just try to forget about it all. She even says that if you're feeling burned out, it's important to take time out to rest and recover. I'm tracking 70 hours of being productive every week, except for a brief period where I got a little sick. Working on one thing or another, trying to move the ball forward across all kinds of different things. And even now, some days, I just can't bring myself to put a freaking frozen pizza in the oven to feed myself because I'm so tired and lazy. And the second thing she talks about is feeling overwhelmed. And yeah, that matches up with me too. Exactly with what I'm going through. Having everything, and I mean everything you've ever worked for in your life, stripped away from you completely and in every way imaginable, from your home, your kids, your life, your career, your possessions, your relationships, your friendships, everything. Every single thing you ever had in your life is gone in the blink of an eye. And then you're thrown in a cold, dirty, disgusting box for 2 years. And then you come out and you're trying to put something back together. You're just struggling. I'm struggling just to find a box to live in. And to find a way to get around. And a better job and everything else. And, when I see this list of 235 things on my to-do list that I need to get done, knowing I can't get them all done, on top of the 500 new things that are going to pop up between now and then, by the end of next year. Just listen to my voice right now. You can hear how overwhelmed I am by all of this. I've applied to almost 500 jobs and I can't get jack shit for a response from any of them. I'm being treated like shit over and over again when it comes to the job hunt. And it's daunting to sit here in a broken economy trying to just scrape together the means for basic survival, let alone any meaningful job or meaningful companionship or a relationship or an enjoyment out of life or being able to spend time with my kids again. And I could go on about this for hours. Yeah, I'm completely fucking overwhelmed right now. And she says, being overwhelmed can put you in a state of paralysis for sure. Where you want to do something, but you feel like you'll bust your ass for the next 12 hours and accomplish nothing. And, well, there's this new good show on Netflix that I'm into right now. So you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go watch it. It feels like I'm carrying around a 75-pound backpack of stress everywhere I go. And yeah, I have gone wilderness backpacking in the mountains of West Virginia, serious wilderness, carrying around a backpack that weighed 72 pounds. And it's crazy how much that weight will slow you down. I did it once as just a test to see if I could do it, and it pissed off all of my friends who went on this hike with me because of how slow it made me. But it's a good analogy for life, because on the flip side, carrying around that 72-pound backpack for a 30-mile hike through the most rugged wilderness you can imagine east of the Mississippi, it made it so that I can now, I can go out and carry a 50-pound backpack on my back right now with almost no problem. And I can generally keep up with the pace of most people I hike with. It really doesn't affect my pace overall in terms of how far I can hike in a day. 50 pounds, it's not bad. Used to feel bad after I did that 72-pound trip of misery. The 50-pound backpack feels like nothing. And it only really slows me down going uphill, but I have the endurance to go all day with that weight, with 50 pounds or less. If I need to hike with the quickness because of who I'm hiking with, some of the speed demons I used to go with, I could pare that down to about 30 pounds for a weekender trip, sacrifice some of the glamping and comforts in exchange for speed. And at that point, if I'm carrying 30 pounds now, it feels like I'm carrying nothing more than a camelback with a water bag in it and a couple of tools, like I would carry on a mountain bike ride. There's something to be said about having the ability to endure carrying a heavy weight, because once the weight is pared down to something that's normal, you won't feel as burdened as someone who never carried the heavy weight in the first place. Right now, I was telling somebody at the bakery one day, I'm like, there's absolutely nothing that you can say to me, that a customer can say to me, that you can do to me that could go wrong at this place. Absolutely nothing that's going to get under my skin or bother me in any way. And what I didn't say to them is, because I'm trying, I don't like to talk about this other than, talking to the entire world on YouTube about it, but I don't like to talk about it in this context, is I worked in a fucking prison kitchen for 14 months. Believe me, if you want to find a way to remove the stress that you go through at your job, go work in a prison kitchen for 14 months, then go back to your job. And you'll find out that the level of stress you feel from your job will feel very light compared to how it felt before you went to go work in the prison kitchen for 14 months. I mean, I spent 14 months in a hellhole of a jail in Butler County, PA, with no windows. I didn't see the fucking sun. I didn't see a fucking tree. I didn't see what the outside looked like. Every time they took me to and from court, it was in a pitch black van with no windows. Working in a prison kitchen, this prison kitchen looked like the fucking bathroom in the Saw movie. Except I think the bathroom in the Saw movie was cleaner. So, do you honestly think anything that you say at the bakery is going to get on my nerves? I've dealt with worse. Believe me when I tell you I've dealt with worse. The third thing that she talks about is fear. Fear. And that matches up with me, of course. Aside from the obvious things someone in my situation would be afraid of, Let's just talk about the fear of telling people about this shit. I just mentioned that a minute ago. You know, telling your friends is bad enough, but here I am talking to complete strangers on YouTube and telling the entire internet these things. Have you ever noticed how if you're physically sick, or you get in a car wreck, or break your leg or whatever, people will flock to you. They'll come out of the woodwork to support you, send you get well cards, they'll send up a fucking GoFundMe page for you, all this shit. But if you're mentally unwell, what do people usually do? They disappear faster than a rabbit in a magician's hat. Poof! They're gone. They're gone. So, aside from the fear of being ostracized for not feeling good, talking about this stuff with you guys or whoever, you know, I'm talking to about it or don't want to talk to about it, there's also the fear of someone in my position being thrown back in prison, being homeless again, being unable to afford to even survive, live a life capable of fulfilling just basic needs, the fear of never seeing my kids again, fear of being alone for the rest of my life, never finding a woman who wants anything to do with a washed up, broke scumbag whose life was destroyed after posting some mean tweets on the internet. You know, and then there's the fear of never being able to find a professional job again because a Google search of my name brings up 500 fucking pages of results and mugshots and all this other stuff about me, whether it's true or not, or exaggerated, or twisted into something that it's not. Even when there are murderers with less Google results who are able to get their shit together and have a good life after getting out of prison. Fear. And the fear of the ramifications of maybe not getting my damn government paperwork filled out and sitting here in limbo trying to get my driver's license in Texas. Just that. My life has been nothing but fear since I got out of prison. If I'm being honest, I've really never experienced the level of constant fear I deal with every single day at any point in my life leading up to this. In fact, I was never really a fearful person. I didn't worry about much. Yeah, I would get worried about certain situations and things like that. Anybody does. But not at the level it is right now. It's overwhelming, which is the second thing on this list of reasons why you might not be motivated. And then there's the fear that just mentioning the fact that I'm not feeling motivated sometimes on a YouTube video will cause someone to blow me off or not want to work with me because I'm no longer the go-getter that I'm supposed to be in order to be successful, even though the high achievers that she talks about constantly go through phases of being burned out or exhausted from time to time. It's normal. The overthinking and always coming up with the worst case scenario has been really bad for me since I got out of prison. Every time I have to do something, I sit and think of every worst possible case scenario or outcome of the thing or the thing not being accomplished. And it's crazy and it can be paralyzing. Sometimes I can't just shut it off. It's there. When you keep banging and banging away, trying to move forward, but you just feel stuck and you're going nowhere, or feeling like things need to be perfect before you can show them for approval, or that you won't be accepted unless the thing you were asked to do is perfect. You know, perfectionism, it all just keeps adding up. And so the fourth reason that you might not be motivated, according to her, you need to take a rest. And once again, it matches up with me. From way before 2024 began until September 12th, 2024, I never slept in past 7 a.m. In fact, I don't think I slept in past 7 a.m. from August of 2022 to September 12th of 2024. 2 years and a month of not sleeping in past 7 a.m. every single day. Without fail, not one single day. Since the day I was released from prison, I spent one night out in the woods by a campfire enjoying nature and some peace and quiet. And that one night was preceded and followed by 12 hours of driving. You know, well, and it was relaxing, but it was tiring. I enjoy going on long drives. A 12-hour drive is fine with me. I can deal with that. I love it. But I haven't had an actual break other than the 5 or 6 days I spent on a couch here in Texas catching up on the Star Wars universe before I got motivated and started with this whole rebound for my life. And I feel like I need a vacation right now. Every day I feel it. Today I'm not doing much. And it's kind of ironic because today I'm doing this video and a whole bunch of not much else. And when I look at the list of things I need to get done and the fact that I'm taking a day to rest, there's a whole guilt trip going along with it. A whole feeling of just feeling guilty and feeling like this could be the reason why your life falls apart if you would have only done something that Sunday. You know, am I going to be saying a month from now, well, if you didn't just sit on your ass all day that one Saturday and actually did something, you wouldn't be in the position that you are today. And so there's this whole guilt trip coming with just taking a day to relax. And believe me, there's more than that today to have, you know, like in terms of just taking a day off and feeling guilty about it. But I need a vacation, man. I need to go to the beach, go camping, sit in my own quiet place that's my own place. I need to do something to de-stress and decompress. You know, 5 days to relax at my friend's house was awesome, but it's not enough to recover from 4 years of going through complete hell. You know, if we're going all the way back to the day in March of 2020 when all this COVID bullshit started and everything I've been through since, it's been 4 years of pure miserable hell for not just me, but I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you've been through it too. So, you know, I'm like a Cybertruck, a Tesla Cybertruck with a bad battery. Right now, you could leave me plugged in for a week to recharge my battery, and when you get in the truck, it's going to show a 5% charge, and you're only going to go 20 miles. And it's going to cost more than the price of the truck to get a new battery, because that's how these electric cars are. So, I don't know, man. I don't know what to do. Another one, number 5. When you're feeling unmotivated, it's because your tasks don't align with your values. And that definitely matches up with me, and it matched up with me for a long, long time, way before I got arrested. In fact, in January of 2020 through March, I was on a path of working very hard toward a dream of what I actually wanted to do with my life. And then all this bullshit came along from our government. And from that moment on, I was in survival mode with everything, just trying to keep things together and survive. And then the FBI showed up in my house and drove a tank into the house in August of 2022, and I spent 20 months in prison, followed by getting tossed into the street to be homeless right after I got out of prison. So everything I do right now is about survival. It's all about survival, and nothing I do is what I actually want to do with my life. And I really don't think I'm ever going to reach a point again where I'm doing what I actually want to do with my life. Some things, and I mean some things I'm doing right now, are good things that I enjoy doing, and they do line up with where I think I could go and align with my values. But really, ever since this whole Democrat Party-sponsored downward spiral started, it's been a complete train wreck. And, you know, I mean, for example, you know, one thing that came out of this that I wasn't looking for, but I felt like I had to do out of survival, was starting my own business, helping small business owners improve their business with my talent for design marketing and helping them get their marketing together. And if you'd asked me if I wanted to do that in 2020, I would have said no. I wanted to be a traveling photographer and sell my photography as my primary source of income. But, you know, doing what I'm doing right now and starting this business, if it takes off and if I can turn this into my full-time income, it beats the living hell out of working for these crooked software companies by leaps and bounds. The software companies do not align with my values at all. Zero. It's the work. It doesn't. The mentality of these crooked software companies just does not vibe with how I want to be. The work that I'm doing to help small businesses grow does. It lines up with my values. I'm meeting awesome people in the process of doing this. It just feels right. It feels like the right thing, even if it's not exactly what I wanted to do, but it aligns with my values when I'm doing it. But you know, right now, this moment in time, if I'm struggling to survive and I'm pouring in 70 hours of productivity every week just to be left with not even enough money to own a car and a studio apartment, like that's just daunting right now. And you know, a lot of those 70 hours comes from working at a bakery making $10 an hour, and that's why, you know, it's all mixed together, and it's daunting to me right now. Knowing that I can't even afford basic survival working at the only jobs that will hire me in terms of like a full-time job, it's demoralizing. It's demoralizing. She says, number 6, the 6th reason why you might not be motivated right now is that you're having mental health struggles. And yeah, that matches up with me. Sure. You know, the psychiatrist who I was required to go and see to get an evaluation from as part of my conditions of probation, she did not say that I needed to be admitted to a psychiatric hospital, to the dismay of many of the trolls who watch these videos on this channel. A lot of people were disappointed that I didn't get carted off to the loony bin. And in fact, she said she didn't even suggest that I continue to seek treatment on a regular basis. She more or less said, you're handling your shit. But she did say that it's not uncommon for someone in my situation to be carrying around a lot of baggage and having issues with stress as a result of everything that I've been through, and that I shouldn't feel bad about it. Like it would be normal to be a little bit of a train wreck in your head after everything that you've been through for the last few years. And if I had sat there and told her that I'm completely fine and I feel absolutely no anxiety or fear, or some of the things that, you know, we discussed, she said that would be abnormal. And that would be a reason for her to believe I was just trying to game her or, you know, get out of being forced into treatment. So, you know, the fact that I was willing to admit that, yes, I am going through some stress, and yes, life is very difficult right now, and there are times where it's overwhelming and all these other things. She said, yeah, I mean, anybody would be going through that, but that doesn't mean you need to be, you know, sent to the fucking psychiatric ward. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has a different level of mental health bullshit going on. And you know, you would expect it when you're going through hell in life. You know, I've talked about it more than once being on this channel. And, you know, I have ways of dealing with this. Tamping it down, sometimes facing it head on, quelling it, treating it. But it's there, and it's going to be there for a really long time. The trauma of what I've been through in the last couple of years is not just going to go away tomorrow. I'm never going to be able to be in a relationship with a woman ever again and be able to trust her. It's just not possible. Not possible. Never again. It won't happen for the rest of my life. I've seen too much. I've experienced too much. The last one was really just the icing on a big, thick cake of bullshit that I've experienced from some of the batshit crazy women out there, and I just can't do that shit anymore. I'd love to be proven wrong, but even if I'm in a good relationship again someday, I'm always going to be looking out to the side or just wondering when the bullshit's coming. When is it? Like, I'll never be able to fully trust somebody ever again. Ever. I'm always going to be looking in the back of my mind, you know, when's crazy coming over for a visit? Or, you know, if I become successful again, I'm always going to feel like any woman that's with me is just with me for the money I have in the bank or what I can do for her. It's not going to be anything to do with me. You know, it's going to be more like a Bill Belichick with the college hookup that he's got right now. It's going to be one of those kind of situations because I'm getting older, you know? And I don't see myself being with another woman my age because they're all miserable. I'm probably going to have to go younger down, you know, I'm probably going to have to date someone younger than me who still has fun in her soul. But, you know, all I'm saying is anxiety and depression, they're not fun. The ebb and flow is hard to deal with sometimes. And it can become hard to focus on anything that's not what is worrying you or blocking you. You know, with all this crap going on with the driver's license situation, my mind just took it to a whole new level of especially when I was told I'm going to have to wait until July or August of next year to get my birth certificate in my hand. I started preparing for the worst mentally. Like, what am I going to do? And just trying to prepare myself. Well, now I have the thing in my hand. And part of that is because I plowed through it and didn't take no for an answer. And so I'll talk about that in another video. But the short version of the story is I went directly to the county website in the county I was born, and they had a form to fill out. I filled it out. 3 days later, I had the thing in my hand. But it wasn't the obvious place to go to look for this thing. When I went to the state website, the Department of Vital Records, they linked me to this website. It's a private company. You fill out a form and some other stuff, pay like $80, and then they turn around after the fact and say, oh, it's going to take 200 days or 8 months for us to get that to you. So the state is actually running a fucking scam on this stuff. I'm not, that's a whole nother video. That's a whole nother day. I don't want to go off track too much here. Still got a few things to talk about. But, the tendency to always come up with the worst case scenario of what could happen when you face a new challenge like that, even if it's a small thing, like a piece of paper that you needed to get your driver's license that you had to wait for. A minute thing of being stuck in traffic. Like sometimes my brain has the automatic... It's like the way she puts it, the woman in this video, she says that your brain has an automatic response of trying to help you, but it's actually doing the opposite and it's harming you. And a good example of this was the first time I had to meet my probation officer in Houston. We had an agreed upon time, and I had no choice. I had to wait until the vehicle was available to go to Houston. And on my way to Houston, I got stuck in traffic, of course. It's a city, it's rush hour, it's, traffic jams. Nothing new under the sun there. But my mind started going down this path where all of a sudden I'm back in prison, all because I was going to be late to the probation officer meeting. And I literally had to sit there and tell my own brain to just shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up, brain. Stop. Or the stress was just going to cripple me. And, an hour later, yeah, I was a little bit later than I thought I was going to be. But I got there, I was in and out of his office, I filled out some forms, I took care of some other stuff, got back in the vehicle and drove back out to my friend's house, and I was there before lunch. And it all worked out smooth. But my mind, it's almost like sometimes, yes, the worst thing does happen. And that might be 1 out of 100. It could even be 1 out of 1,000. Since I got out of prison, the worst thing has happened maybe 3 times. I'm trying to think. I was scared to death when I got out of prison. Like the day I got home that my cunt girlfriend was going to throw me out into the street when I had nothing or no time to even begin getting on my feet. And that's exactly how it went down. So my fears were grounded in reality. Other people were telling me, no, she's not that much of a piece of shit. And I'm like, I think she is. I think she is. I think this is what's going to happen. I was saying this to my best friend 2 days after I got out of prison, that I think she's going to do this. And, same thing on my way to the DMV the other day, a couple weeks ago. I just had this bad feeling. I had this bad feeling I was going to walk out of there without my driver's license. And it happened. It happened. Friday the 13th, of course. Of course. I even thought about that when I saw that the only appointment I could get was Friday the 13th. I'm like, should I go Monday the 16th? Instead, maybe just wait a few more days. But no, I had this bad feeling, and the bad feeling turned out to be true. And then the day got a lot worse when all the sources of birth certificate was saying, oh, you're going to have to wait until July or August to get that fucking driver's license now. And so, of course, my mind just went down this downward spiral like the drain of a toilet. And it was hard to lift myself out of there. But there have been at least 300 other times since I got out of the joint where I've been worried about the worst thing happening, and it didn't happen. So maybe, the third thing. I said 3, and I've just thought of the third thing that happened. The third worst thing that happened was actually the first one. But I was really worried when I got released from prison that I was going to end up stranded somewhere with nothing in my pockets and no way to reach anybody, and that's exactly what happened. Long story short, the Bureau of Prisons left me stranded in Bridgeport, Connecticut with no phone, no money, no ID, no clothes, nothing. In the freezing cold rain of, early April, it was a freezing rainstorm. There was ice on the roads. I'm in shorts and a t-shirt because that's what they sent me home in. No money. I had like $10 cash. I had no phone. I had no... but I was able to I went through a panic attack, and I was completely out of my mind when this happened. But at the end of the whole ordeal, I actually got home sooner than I was supposed to by several hours because of the rearrangement of travel. And so I ended up getting back to Buffalo at like 7 or 8 in the morning. I wasn't supposed to be there until 2 or 3, 4 in the afternoon. When I ended up homeless, things came out of it. Yeah, it was the worst thing. It's probably one of the worst things that's ever happened to me. I don't know. Being thrown out into the street was almost as bad as going to prison. Just mentally. But things came out of it that are now turning out now to be blessings in my life. And some of these things would not have happened if I did not end up homeless in the first place. So, like I said, the Texas driver's license situation, that seems to be turning out better than I expected, and maybe a couple of weeks of nonsense and hardship instead of the 8 months of nonsense and hardship. We'll see. The point being is that sometimes when the worst thing does happen, even that becomes a blessing in disguise. With this driver's license thing, maybe there's a reason that God wanted me to get this birth certificate in my hands right now, because maybe in a few months, maybe there's a day coming up where I need that document, and now I have it. The proper one, the one that gets me the driver's license, not the one that I already had that they wouldn't accept. But maybe, just maybe, I need this thing for something else down the road, and getting it taken care of now is going to pay off down the road, and I'm just too short-sighted to see it until the day comes. One of these days, 6 months from now, I might be doing a video. Oh my God, thank God I went and got that birth certificate, because if I didn't have that, I would be in so much trouble. So you never know. You never know. Sometimes the worst thing does happen, but it turns out to be a blessing in disguise. I got stranded in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I ended up getting home 8 hours earlier than I was supposed to. I ended up homeless in Jamestown, but I ended up starting my own business, getting a bunch of clients, being able to move to Houston, Texas, etc. There's, you know, it started out real shitty, but it turned into something good. So this woman, she says, you know, people who are high achievers, they put a lot of pressure on themselves to perform and accomplish things, and that's why they're more susceptible to feelings of failure, because of all the pressure that they put on themselves. And she calls this high functioning anxiety. I would have to go through my court documents or through my documents from the mental health place, but she gave me a similar kind of a diagnosis, like it wasn't like post-traumatic stress disorder, but it was something along those lines, like something really traumatic happened to you and now you're going to be dealing with anxiety because of it. You know, and this woman calls successful people that get stressed out and burned out high-functioning anxiety. And so what can we do? What can we do if you're someone going through this? You know, if I'm speaking to someone who can relate to what I'm talking about. Well, the first thing that she talks about is having self-compassion. And which means don't beat yourself up. I can't tell you how many times I have to say to myself over and over, and this goes back to when I was homeless, don't beat yourself up over this. You did everything you could. I got rejected. I got hired to 2 different jobs in Jamestown, only to be rejected on my only to be told to go home on my first day of work. Don't beat yourself up over that. You did everything you could. Walk away from it for a minute. If you're having a problem with something, the birth certificate thing, walk away from it. Just walk away and forget about it for a minute. The answer might present itself if you stop trying to force it. And it was by me walking away from it that I came back and just started getting, maybe a day or 2 later, I was in a better place mentally, and I just started doing some more searching. I'm like, I'm not giving up on this crap. And then all of a sudden, an avenue showed up to get this document really fast. But if I had sat there on the day that I started having this problem when I got back from the DMV, my mind was just too messed up. I wasn't going to find the answer that day. I had to walk away and forget about it for a minute for that to work itself out. I still had to do the work. I still had to pay the fee, fill out the forms, find the thing that worked. But walking away from it and coming back after a couple of days after I've cooled off made a big difference. She says the inner critic shows up when you're taking a day of rest and being lazy, telling you, you just need to get off your ass, you lazy piece of shit. You're going to end up homeless again, just like everyone expects you to. But hey, at least you'll go back to getting a lot more YouTube traffic once you fall back on your face. That's the inner critic. That's what I was talking about earlier in the video, the feeling guilty. I need a day to just recharge my batteries, not think about anything, rest. The benefit that I'm going to get from taking a day off, from the mental health benefit that I will get from that, will allow me to get more done in the next week than I could get done if I sat here and plowed through all my problems today and just had that stress front and center. I'm going to take a day off and just relax for a minute, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to have more energy. I'll get more done in one day than I could in 3 days of working through the stress without taking a break. I already know this. I've been through this a million times in life. All that you really do when you're kicking the crap out of yourself is making the situation worse. People say you need tough love to get off your ass, stop being a crybaby, and stop whining and start doing what you have to do. But if you keep beating yourself up, all you're going to do is make yourself feel worse. And if you're in my situation or a situation like that, it's really easy to feel like you're a worthless piece of shit. I used to make well over 6 figures, and now I can barely hold down a part-time job making $10 an hour at a bakery. It's real easy. And it took me, 6 months to find that job. It's real easy to feel like you're a worthless piece of shit when the love of your life tells you that you're a worthless piece of shit and she doesn't love you anymore because you're a worthless piece of shit who can't make money anymore and you're no longer the alpha male that she fell in love with, but you're just a washed up turd, before throwing you out in the street to be homeless. It's easy to feel like a worthless piece of shit when you work at a part-time job surrounded by high school kids driving around in BMWs who all look at you and wonder, why the hell is this 50-year-old guy working with us who rides his bicycle to work every day? It's very easy to feel like a piece of shit and worthless in my shoes right now. I'm not saying that I do. I'm saying that it's very easy to go down that road. Is he feeling me on that? How the fuck would anyone in my shoes right now not feel like that from time to time? Like we talked about, people wanting to commit suicide. And no, I'm not there. I'm not suicidal right now. And I thank God for giving me the hope to continue with my life in spite of all this stuff. And so the second thing that you can do, according to the woman in this video, get some rest. Get some rest. And I agree wholeheartedly. I have suffered from this high-functioning anxiety more than once. Well, way before the FBI drove a tank into my house and carted me off to prison for some mean tweets. I have yet to experience it other than very small doses here and there. I need a stress-free month right now, bare minimum. I don't honestly even know how much rest I need in order to recover from the trauma that put me through. And what I meant by that is I have yet to experience the level of stress that I'm feeling right now in terms of this high-functioning anxiety, whatever you want to call it. It was smaller doses before before the day the FBI drove a tank into my house. Yes, it was there, but not at the level it is right now. That's for sure. Just put it this way. I watched a guy get stabbed up to the point where he ran off the cell block trying to hold his organs inside of his body, and he wasn't even doing a good job because shit was falling out onto the floor. And I'm thinking, is that what a spleen looks like? And what exactly is a spleen anyway? I don't know. But all I'm saying is I've seen too much and I've experienced way too fucking much in the last few years. I think if I somehow cobbled up enough money to buy some land and an off-grid cabin in the woods somewhere and vanished completely from society for 20 straight years, it still wouldn't be enough rest for me to recover from what I've been through in the last few years. But right now, I would settle for being able to go to a quiet place with a nice view and just chill the fuck out for a minute. I can't go smoke a bowl because that'll get me thrown right back in prison, but the peace and quiet and a nice view would certainly be an upgrade. It would be a great thing right now. Taking an afternoon to watch some videos with helpful advice for what I'm dealing with right now. Taking notes for the video that I'm putting together and I'm speaking to you right now. And clearing my head before I dig into some client work tomorrow or whenever I get back to that. That's a good thing. It helps me recharge my mind and my batteries. It would be nice to go to a quiet park or a bicycle ride, but riding my bicycle anywhere in this area, this ridiculous suburban, ultra-planned Texas cul-de-sac community, it's taking your life into your hands and dealing with angry, obnoxious, aggressive drivers who openly want to kill you, and they don't beat around the bush about it. It's not the most enjoyable thing right now, even as much as I love riding my bicycle. I even enjoy combat cycling, and I get a kick out of pissing off these stupid-ass hillbillies, but it's not what I would call relaxing. It's not like getting on the bicycle trail that goes from Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C. and going on a 350-mile ride that's mostly peace and quiet where all you have to do is think about stuff and clear your head. It's not even close to that. It's a death grip on the handlebars, hoping that you don't get hit by someone going 80 miles an hour. That's what it is. Sometimes over the last month or two, I'll just crash out and I'll take an hour-long power nap in the middle of the day for no reason. But then I'll get up and I'll come back and I'll accomplish something, and it beats sitting at a desk getting nothing done while I'm drifting off and can't keep my eyes open. So this woman, she says that you need to respect and respond to your natural rhythms. And the more that you fight against that, the more unmotivated that you will eventually become. And I've been a creative professional and an artist my entire life. There are times when I will work all night long without sleep, and then I'll sleep all the next day. There are times when I've worked 120 hours a week for over a month, and then I take the next 2 months off to do almost nothing because I made so much money from the 120 hours a week for a month that I was able to just disappear for a couple of months and do nothing and recover from that. There was this one time I met someone who was a chef who had started her own catering business. She catered to celebrities, these demanding celebrities. And she would bust her ass hard for weeks on end, very demanding clients. In fact, she once told me that Dan Marino fired her from a catering job simply because, well, she had put in a ton of time on this job and he fired her from the catering job simply because she showed up with an insulated coffee mug that had a Pittsburgh Steelers logo on it. And she had it sitting on a table as she was setting up for the party. And then like a few months down the road, he called her back to apologize, and she said, she was sorry that she was a fan of a team that could actually win a Super Bowl. And then they were friends again, and she could come cater his parties or whatnot. But she would bust her ass for these snotty-ass demanding celebrity clients and not sleep for an entire month. And she'd make so much money from it, she could take the next 3 months off to go play with her chicken coop in her backyard garden and just relax for 3 months. And then get ramped up and do it again when the next douchebag celebrity calls and needs a catering job. And the point is, sometimes when you break your back for months on end to accomplish a really hard goal, you also need to rest equally hard in order to recover from all of that. I've been there. I've done it. You can't go and manage one douchebag celebrity party after the next, after the next, after the next without getting burned out. I mean, imagine having to go to work and deal with those fucking Kardashian cunts for 8 straight months for 80 hours a week. How long would you be able to put up with their bitchy-ass, demanding, retarded bullshit before you were just completely burned the fuck out from it? I mean, look what happened to their fucking dad. They twisted that guy around into believing he's a fucking woman now. And that can be what happens to you if you don't get the fuck away from people like that and rest once in a while and clear your head. Imagine where Bruce Jenner would be today if he could have just gotten away from them for a little bit. That's all I'm saying. The third thing that this woman says that you can do to deal with your high functioning anxiety, prioritize. And it's kind of funny because I just got done telling all of you how I had to sit down over this last week and reprioritize my entire to-do list that I keep in this app called Trello, because I wasn't crossing anything off anymore. Nothing seemed important. Priorities had changed. The whole thing just became like a disorganized mess that made me feel low whenever I looked at it. So doing that helped me refocus my mind and kind of see what's actually important right now and what can I push off to the future if, I ever get around to it. And it's like like I said before, I have 3 priorities right now. 1, top priority, get my clients' projects done. I got to plow through it, whatever it takes. I got to get these things done. Number 2, I got to find a place to live that's mine. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, I've got to make that happen. And number 3, I got to find a car, any car that's reliable enough that I can afford, that allows me to expand my distance that I'm able to travel in a certain amount of time so that I can get things done. And so, if I think about these things, getting the client's projects done makes them happy, builds my business portfolio, and it increases my income and my potential future income drastically. That's why it's number 1. Finding my own place. I'll get a lot more freedom, the ability to decompress more than I can right now. And I need my own space. I'll be able to do a YouTube video whenever I want. I'll be able to work whenever I want, as loud as I want, as late as I want. Whatever the case may be, it's my place. And a vehicle, obviously, these are common sense things, but it's going to expand my capability to find a job, do the most basic mundane things that are a struggle right now. How much time will I waste using a bicycle to go grocery shopping, go to a laundromat, and commute to a job on a bicycle? Time that then can't be used to forward my life. If it takes 20 hours out of my week to bicycle to work, take things to the laundromat and come home, 3 or 4 trips to the grocery store because I can only carry 2 days worth of food in a backpack at any given time, how much time do I not have now for the other things that I need to get done? And how much opportunity and money is being lost as a result of essentially wasting 20 hours out of my week just getting around to do the basic things in life on a bicycle when I could do all of the same thing in half an hour with a car. You know what I'm saying? 19 and a half hours comes back to me that I can get other things done. And there are 232 other things on my to-do list, and I'll be able to get through those faster and have more time for them if I get these first 3 things done. And so if I put these 3 things off, I'm in big trouble. So I've added new things to the list that I can get done quickly on days when, I'm working at the bakery and I only have a couple hours to put in at home to be productive. I've got things added to the list that should only take a few minutes to get knocked off, but generally speaking, I had to reprioritize everything and just rethink it all. And things changed. Things that were important to me when I was in Jamestown are at the back of the list now because they're no longer front and center. Other things have taken over and other things have been pushed to the back. Things that were near the back have come up to the front. I had to rearrange the whole thing. The 4th thing that you can do when you're feeling this anxiety is she talks about assessing your emotions. And I think I've done a lot of that here in the last hour and 20 minutes just talking about all of this with you. I'm fearful. Why are you afraid? If you're fearful, why are you afraid? What are you afraid of? And all that kind of stuff. And like I said, I've talked about it. What are the worst case scenarios versus how often do they really happen? I've got this issue with being angry, unforgiving, wishing people that have wronged me would basically rot in hell. And, I have to look at, why do I hate these people so much, especially the ones I don't know, like the Democrats that I don't know, who I can't stand. The feeling of being overwhelmed, having too many projects to get done at once, trying to do too many things, just trying to survive, knowing that what you need to do in order to survive will actually keep you from being able to thrive because it's eating up all of your time, feeling frustrated, all that stuff. So she says that, these are clues as to what you will gain by taking care of the things making you feel this way. And the biggest reward you will get is the reduction of the feelings from those things that are stressing you out. Naming the specifics instead of just the general feelings that you have will help you overcome them. Itemizing them will help you challenge them and figure out how to move on a case-by-case basis, right? And then the fifth thing that she says you should do, and I do this, and I've had to do this many times. I've had to stop and do this. Focus on your progress. So instead of just like focusing on what you didn't get done this week, sometimes you got to step back and look at what you actually did get done. I talk about that Tim Robbins quote where he once said in a video I was watching, people tend to people tend to overestimate what they can accomplish in a year, but they underestimate typically what they can accomplish in a decade. And I can look at that in my own life and say, yeah, in the span of a year, I really never do get accomplished what on January 1st, when I'm making the New Year's resolutions or whatever, by the time December 31st gets here, I feel like I didn't get anything done. I got some things done, but I didn't get done what I thought I could. But then in a span of 10 years, I look back and I'm like, wow, how the hell did I get here when I was there? And so I've seen that a lot in my life. And I'm hoping that 10 years from April of this year, I can look back and say 10 years ago I was getting out of prison and being thrown out into the street to be homeless, and look where I am now. Look where we are now. Hopefully I'm surrounded by some people that I want to be around, and I'm not on my own. But, one of the reasons I keep this weekly finished list on my to-do tracker is so like at the end of the year I can look back and see all the things I did get done that I marked as being complete. I might just take a minute sometime in January and look through that and just say, oh yeah, and just remember, take stock of what you actually got done. And knowing that I actually did more than that because I didn't write every single thing down that I accomplished. But just taking stock of where I was in April before I became homeless and where I am sometime in January. The fact that I spent Christmas of 2023 in prison, and now I'm able to get on a bicycle and go for a ride and not have to worry about being locked in a fucking dungeon all day long. Taking stock of not being homeless or stuck in Jamestown, New York for the winter when it's 16 degrees outside, not being able to find a job and having 6 feet of snow on the ground everywhere while I'm having to leave the homeless shelter every morning to go figure out my life again and again and again and again. Knowing that I could run into my ex at any moment, having to walk and ride a bicycle everywhere. Like I said, possibly being in a homeless shelter still, because there's only 3 apartments in the whole city of Jamestown, and now I'm in Houston. It's 75 degrees every day. I can ride my bicycle to work. I can move forward with my life. And things are much better right now here in December than they were 4 months ago back in August. Way better. Way better. So no matter how overwhelmed I get, I can look at that and say, I'm way better off today than 4 months ago. Even before the FBI drove the tank into my house, I would have to stop what I'm doing and assess my life and focus on what I actually did get done versus what I wasn't getting done. Sometimes I would have to do that to set my mind straight when I was on a negative, thought cycle of just feeling like I'm not good enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm not getting enough done, whatever the case may be. I would look back and say, okay, 3 years ago, what were you doing? And where are you now? You're way better off now. This woman, the woman who did that video, she calls this a growth mindset. Convincing yourself that you can grow, move forward, get out of a jam, make more money, and get things done. It's easier when you look at how many times that you've already done it in your life. When you see that you actually have the ability to do this, then you're more likely to be able to do it easily. She says, number 6, the 6th thing that you can do when you're not feeling motivated is don't wait for motivation. Sometimes you'll never feel motivated to do something, but you know that you have to do it. I had to fill out some forms for the stupid birth certificate on another website after I already did it, and pay another $80 and, all this stuff. And like I told you, it took me 2 days before I could motivate myself to spend the 10 minutes filling out the form and paying again for it. But it resulted in me getting the thing in 3 days instead of having to wait 8 months. I felt motivated after, a couple of days had passed. And then I felt good about it after I did it, even before I knew when it was coming to my house. But for a couple of days, my mindset was that I was just going to be even more pissed off and wasting more of my time and money. And I had to take a couple of days to get my mind into a place where I could deal with being angry before I would even attempt to fill out another form and try this again. So I chose to do it one morning right after waking up. Right after waking up, it was the first thing I did on a morning where I had to go to the bakery in the afternoon. And I did it so early in the morning I couldn't talk myself out of doing it. And I was at a point where if it doesn't work, I'll deal with that when the time comes. And it sounds stupid and counterintuitive, but mentally, right on the day that when this whole thing happened and I was being told I got to wait 8 months to get my driver's license, I couldn't handle another loss in the win-loss column. And I had to put that off for a couple of days. Like I said, sometimes you got to walk away and come back when you're not feeling it bad. I've had other times where I have to do work for clients and I'm not motivated, but just starting it ramps me up. And all of a sudden, where it might have taken me several hours to get motivated to start working on something because I wasn't inspired or whatever, something clicks and then all of a sudden 10 hours goes by and I turn out something that I'm proud of, the client's happy with it, and I had no problems with the energy level required to get it done once I got started. But just getting started sometimes is the hard part because you're just trying to talk yourself into sitting down and doing it. It was kind of the same thing with that birth certificate thing. I found another avenue and getting started on it was the hard part. Filling out the form took 5 minutes. Waiting 3 days for it to come in the mail was out of my mind. It wasn't something I was thinking about until I got the notice that FedEx was going to be showing up in the next hour and I had to be here to sign for it. Sometimes just getting started on a bicycle ride is really difficult. It's real difficult to get motivated, to get on the bike and ride. But once I'm sitting in that seat, I can go 100 miles. The first quarter of a mile might be really hard, and then the remaining 99 3/4 miles are a breeze. Once you're going, once you're in it, you're in it. This woman, she says, sometimes you just have to take baby steps towards something, and it certainly helps. I might start a project. I might start doing something I don't want to do. Do it for 15 minutes and walk away. Come back half an hour later, do another 15 minutes. Maybe this time take a 15-minute break. Come back, work a half hour, take a 15-minute break. Back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes I'll make a deal with myself. I'll choose to listen to a podcast or something to listen to, and I'll say, you need to work the entire time this podcast is playing before you can quit. I'll take a break to go to the bathroom, maybe get a drink, whatever, hit pause, come back. But today I have to listen to the whole show. It could be a 3-hour-long podcast. I have to listen to the whole thing and be working while I'm listening to it. And I have to make it to the end of the podcast before I decide to take a major break or keep going. And a lot of those times, now that I'm working and I'm doing it, I'll just choose to keep working and I'll grab another podcast to listen to, and I'll listen to 3 or 4 podcasts in a row while I work on something, because all it was a matter of talking myself into getting started on something. But once I'm started, I'm good. I'm on it. I'm getting it done. And that whole, everything that went, all the anxiety, the lack of motivation, everything disappears once you get started. Once again, sometimes getting started on something you want to do or that you don't want to do, it's the hardest part. I can't agree with that more. That is I've experienced that numerous times. You know, sometimes I'll find ways to get started that aren't hard. Like I'll be working on a long-term project and I'll just find something simple to do, like sit down and take some notes about what I want to do. Go to a whiteboard and just jot down some thoughts instead of just jumping into the hard stuff first. Warm up to it. Do a few easy things first, cross them off, then jump into the things that are hard, that are bothering you, that are causing you to not be motivated. Even the woman even said outlining a task before you start is a good way of breaking it down so it's not as daunting as it seems. You know, for one website I'm working on, the next small thing I'm going to do is focus on making some nice banners for each page of the site. There's a little bit of a creative block going on, kind of like a writer's block, but it's more of a designer's block. And I haven't really been feeling it yet. But I started working on it and just kept pushing through it, experimenting, try this, try that, take a break, go look at other examples of what are other people doing. Do you find any ideas by looking at what other people are doing or other examples of other people's websites? And now I'm at the point with this website where I've kind of crossed that line and now I like where it's going. Still not where I want it to be, but it's going in the right direction. And, I feel like it's all going to start falling into place and it'll reach a point where it's like a snowball effect. It'll start to look good. It'll start to go in that right direction. And then everything just rapidly starts to fall into place. Sometimes these design projects, they seem like nothing's happening for a long period of time. And then all of a sudden, everything just falls into place. And that's just normal for this kind of work. She also suggested watching inspiring or motivational videos. And, obviously I can relate to that because it was by watching a video on YouTube while I was sitting around that got me to do today's video. And while I was at the homeless shelter, I was watching YouTube videos at night, some of which were people talking about running their own freelance web design businesses and different things that they were doing. And I was inspired to give a shot at freelancing again because of watching those videos. They were inspiring. They were motivational. They told me that I could do this. I could definitely do this. They had me looking at certain things a different way, a way I hadn't been looking at them before. And all of a sudden something clicked and I said, I can take what they're doing, put my own spin on things, do it my way. And, just these light bulbs were going off in my head as to how I might approach things in my own way using some of the techniques that were in these videos, but putting my own spin on it. And, they inspired me to look deeper into that, and now here I am doing it. She calls that activating mirror neurons. Mirror. So the concept is when you see somebody doing something that inspires you, your brain behaves as if you are doing the thing yourself. And there were these times that I would see a video of Lance Armstrong just crushing motherfuckers on the Alpe d'Huez and the Tour de France. And then I would go out and start crushing people on South 18th Street in Pittsburgh or climbing some of the Dirty Dozen hills, the steepest hills in Pittsburgh, one of which is the second steepest street in the United States. And I would do all of this without doping. I mean, other than maybe weed, but I don't think weed would allow me to win the Tour de France. It just might make the scenery a lot more enjoyable. And I'm not going to care if I come in last place that day, that's for sure. But this was all before we knew that Lance Armstrong was cheating, even though we all more or less knew. But, what was said hadn't been said. And, what we don't know, we don't know. But like I said, I would see videos of him just crushing people, and it would inspire me to get out on my bike, and all of a sudden I'd be banging out record personal best hill climb times in Strava. And one time I beat this guy from the Pittsburgh Steelers on South 18th Street who I'd been trying to beat for a while. All because my brain just felt like a winner that day and I shaved 5 minutes off my best time. My brain actually thought I was doing the thing when I was just watching some other dude do the thing. And he wasn't even doing the thing himself, but rather cheating. But it still helped me go out and get better at doing the thing. She mentions this Pomodoro technique, where you set a timer and you work for a short period of time, followed by taking a break, and then you keep doing it over and over again. And I think that's, like I said earlier, I just said that a few minutes ago. I think it's exactly what I tend to do when I'm having a hard time starting something. It's a technique. I'll work 15 minutes, walk away, come back, work 15 minutes, walk back, come back away. I just didn't have some douchey LinkedIn thought leader brand name for it. So I Googled it, and yeah, it's just a fancy name for something I already was doing. I just didn't know that there was a whole club for people who do that and a whole process for it and an official club. So I don't know, maybe there's an official club for people who eat salads with a fork and ice cream with a spoon. I just don't know about it, even though I am one of those people myself. So here we go. She also suggested trying to make things fun. And like I said, it's part of the reason why I rely on podcasts and things that I can listen to as I work that engage my mind. Because if the work that I'm doing is somewhat mindless and I don't need to put all my thought and concentration into it, I can listen to someone talk and get absorbed into some topic or whatever they're talking about. And the time goes by and I'm still being productive, and then all of a sudden I look in front of me and the work that I did, I got a lot of work done. And I enjoyed the last 2 hours of it because I was listening to someone talk and they were holding my interest, and I didn't want to leave my seat because I was interested in this podcast, but I'm also getting things done. So sometimes I do that. It works better for me to do that than to listen to music while I work. But she does also say listening to music is a good way to do it. That's one thing I do. How I counteract the horrible bicycling here in Houston is by music. I worked on a system until I got a speaker set up on my bicycle that's louder than the loudest traffic that I encounter. The bass is so loud, it actually vibrates the bicycle frame as I'm riding, and I can feel it through the handlebars. I could get an even louder speaker, but I'm not there yet. Right now it's working just fine, and this loud-ass music takes my mind off of the nightmare of a bike ride that I'm on, and it helps me get faster times on Strava because it's kind of like being on a slave ship when you got some dude banging on a drum in the back of the boat telling everybody how fast they gotta row. There's a beat to the music telling me how fast I gotta hit them pedals and the cadence that I have to keep. And a house music track is gonna be a nice steady 120 beats per minute rhythm, just boom, as you're going down the road, and it keeps you going. But there might be an angry hill climb coming up, and I got to put on some metal, and it's just, and I'm up on the top of the fucking hill already like it was nothing. But it was the music that helped me get there and take my mind off of the fact that I'm climbing up this horrible hill. And so the music does help. Another thing that I used to do when I had a nice home, I had a separate office. It was in a separate building, but it was very dark, and I kept it like that on purpose. Multi-screen setup, big desk with a keyboard, multiple computers, multiple screens, all kinds of stuff going on. And that was great for certain kinds of work, but I also would set up a summer office in the sunroom of my house. And I would sit there and work all day, especially if the only thing I really had to do was sit in corporate Zoom meetings all day long. And so I could sit there in the sunroom and just watch animals all day long. All day long. This house was out in the middle of the woods. I kid you not, every animal you can possibly imagine, every animal that's on a list of the animals that you can see in Western Pennsylvania would be in my yard at some point during the summer, every single one of them. And so everything from an albino deer to all kinds of snakes to a family of ducks walking across to chickens, guinea fowl, all kinds of birds, hummingbirds floating right next to the window. That's just what I could come up with in 10 seconds off the top of my head. All day long, animals, nonstop animals. Squirrels, these chipmunks. Oh my God, there's a whole family of chipmunks that were constantly just playing around and doing stuff. They were there all day long. Just nonstop animals. And that helped motivate me to sit there and do my work all day long, because I could be in these boring Zoom meetings and I could just be looking out the window while the Zoom meeting's going on and watching a bunch of animals doing fun stuff like I'm at a zoo. But the zoo came to me. And so that helped with being stuck in some dumbass meetings for hours on end, and having that sunshine and the light coming in from being in a sunroom surrounded by glass. You know, it just put me in a better mood at the end of the day. And number 7, the last thing that she mentions when it comes to dealing with a lack of motivation is, she calls it, remember your why. You remind yourself why you are doing these things, and that's helpful when it comes to getting back into your motivation. And right now, I mean, I'm just trying to survive and not end up homeless again. That's why. Boom, right there. And, you know, albeit I'm in a warmer city where you can survive easier being homeless than in Jamestown, New York, when it's fucking 16 degrees outside all winter. But, I mean, I started watching another video that day. And the first thing that the woman said, and I'm not going to link to it because the video wasn't that good, but the first thing that she said is, your brain is constantly focused on survival, and your brain is constantly scanning and looking for threats. And that popped up right after I just wrote down those thoughts about, you know, the why I have to do everything right now is survival. But, you know, the more deeper reason why I need to get motivated, that there's a lot more at stake than just survival right now. And there's a reward at the end of the day. Each time I cross something off this never-ending list, it opens up opportunities for life to get easier, and for the things that I truly want, like having my kids back in my life and having the ability to enjoy life and to rest more and to travel and to experience rest and relaxation and do my photography and my art and be an artist again, and all the things that, you know, there are things I want to do with my life that do not involve working for $10 an hour at a minimum wage job where I'll make less money in a month than I used to make in 2 days at my previous job. You know, and if I sit around on my ass bitching about stuff instead of doing stuff, I'll never get back to that place, will I? No. So that's really all I have to say about this topic today, but this is probably the longest video I've ever posted, and there was a lot to say about it. But, so, you know, make sure to check out some of the other videos that got me started on this topic today, because maybe there's some good content there. If you made it this far, thank you. You're a super fan. And if you made it to an hour and 45-minute video on this channel, then that's awesome. I could have broken this up into 10 videos and gotten all the ad revenue across, you know, 10 videos instead of one. But I'm just too lazy to do that right now, and I'm just going to put it up, and I'm going to move on with my life. I don't know if I'm going to do a video tomorrow. I really don't know when the next one's going to be, but I've already got some notes taken down, and I am sure something will pop up between now and then, or maybe I'll get some comments from you guys, and I'll have some good things to say. But no plugs today. Too much time went into this video, and you know, my day is starting to wrap up, and I've got a whole lot more of not much to get done today, so I'm just going to leave it there, and I'm going to tell you guys till next time, peace out. Hope you have a good one.